Now,
So, hi, everybody, I'm Maris Reyes. I am the chair of the Housing Land Use and Zoning Committee. Welcome. We have a couple items on the agenda. The first order of business is minutes, but we're not gonna do that because we don't have a forum. So I think, we were gonna have a presentation from our fellow, but we had a little bit of a snafu in the scheduling. So they're gonna come in January. And we're gonna just proceed today with the ethics crossing, um, uh, market management presentation. And so, and then we'll, talk about term limits, but we'll see where it takes us. So just so that you know, you guys present. We hold the questions, and I want the folks online to know that, the way that the meeting works is, EDC will make a presentation to us. Then the floor will be open for questions for the committee members first. And then we can take questions from everyone who is online. And, we'll start with that. So please hold your questions. Oh, we can't hear me.
sorry, we should take attendance.
Yeah. I'm gonna do that.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna use that. So I was just saying to everybody online that EDC will make a presentation and then, the committee will be able to ask questions, and after that, we will open it up to everyone online. So the first order of business is attendance. And so, Aster, do you want to just be on this?
Oh, here, yes. Oh, to fold it? I need the list.
Okay, here, so then I'll have to.
Okay, the Maris Reyes,
Here,
John Trout,
I,
Adriana Chua, Alistair here, Herman Hewitt, absent, Michelle Cooper Smith, absent, Molly Yu, here, Camden Munn, Lord Manian.
Yes, here.
Jalian Rodriguez,
absent,
Sandra Stroller,
absent.
Steve Herrick, and Megan Joyce.
This is the first time that we're gonna have such few people. I think that's what it is, the holidays are upon us. And whoever's here is funny, and maybe other people will check on it, but if not,
Yes. Would it be okay if we just sat at the end of the table, so since we're on the screen, and we can see who's there?
yeah, because the camera's up here, so.
Oh, the camera's first.
Right here. So, we have joining us and returning tonight is Gigi Lee, who is, with EDC. I know this board very well. Lived in the neighborhood and was formerly the chair of CP3. So, thank you, Gigi, personally, to present to us. And then we have, Eileen from EDC also, right? Who's also, I believe, the manager of the project manager of public markets. Right, so she oversees all the public markets, and we're also very lucky to have her today.
Thank you, Damaris. Always good to be back. As Damaris said, my name is Gigi Lee. For those of you who don't know me, I am a vice president at EDC in the government and community relations team. I think many of you know that Essex Crossing, the entirety of the project is near and dear to my heart because it started with my time at the community board, and then I continued to be involved in my 4 years with former council member Chin, and then now for 4 years with EDC. So I have worn all the hats and know all the perspectives and understand the institutional knowledge and the very important role that this board had in shaping the future of the market and the project at large. And I know that there are several folks here who shared that journey with me. I won't say how many years ago, but we were younger. But now we're wiser, so here we are. So Susan sent over a couple of questions. I think we are going to just kind of go through the questions. I think generally the questions address some, changes in management and operations, which Eileen will cover. And then, I will address any questions on, possible upcoming RFPs. In terms of the future of, partnership and sort of, the direction. So, I think with that, I'm gonna turn it over to, Eileen to talk about some recent changes in operations, management, vendor association, as well as, any potential changes, in the near future.
Good. I'm Eileen Altamira, I'm the VP of Public Markets. I normally am mainly most of my time in Essex Market, as is our flagship store. I also work with the other 5 public markets that we have. When I started with Essex Market, which is gonna be, I'll say 2 years now, recently in November. We were managed, we had a facility operator, which was Site 2 Wholesale, which is part of the developer for the whole system. As you all know, we share square footage in this market.
I'm sorry, DSA Land Use Street Association.
In this particular market, different from others that we have, we share our square footage with other private entities or, like, and housing, which we don't have in other, markets. So when the market, was transferred from the old location to the new location, there was a few things that were, I wasn't part of, but I am aware, that took place. One of them was creating a vendor association, contract to help with the liaison and the transfer from the old market for the legacy tenants to the new market, so that that process was very easy and what it could have been, right? Or more transparent and facilitate what they need, their needs were. And make sure that they have a voice and make sure that they receive them, which is very important. And then because we shared square footage with the with Pulaski Street Association, we shared, they were given a contract as facility operator, where they shared janitorial, security, and management practically of the market besides the tenancy, which UDC has always done. So when Market Line was open 2 years ago, so it was the same security, it was the same janitorial, same rubbish, everything was shared. I took over 2 years ago, I think a few months of me in, they announced us that they were gonna close Market Line, I believe it was April, not mistaken, I kind of just like, oh, you guys want to close first? Yeah, that was what you, like, we're in 2025, so that was 2023. Yeah, it's been 2 years of April 1st, I remember, because it was like 2.5 years. Yes, okay. So it'll be 3 years next, 2026. So, with that said, we had a lot of meetings with community partner, how that affected, and I think our first priority was how do we help with small businesses that are down there, up here with what we can. We inherited, we were able to bring up 4 tenants that were from Market Line up to Essex Market, Rebecca, Cake Box, Old Dragon Inn, which is now called Shibuya, Catalyst, and Smith Park. So those are the 4 tenants that we were able to bring up. Others went to other areas in the Lower East Side because we either didn't have the square footage we required, or didn't feel that was a good fit. A good fit, the space we had, it's very limited, the availability right now, we have none, besides the Broad Street restaurant that hasn't been outsourced yet. All is sold, currently occupied, so and then that's the norm really, as somebody needs, and we have a list of waiting people, so which is a good thing, right? With that said, I came in while we hired a manager, and I met with the community partner and with the vendor association to see what the needs were, what was working, what wasn't working. And among, one of the things that, we did changes were, since the market had been open already for 5 years, we did not renew our contract with the vendor association because we hired a new manager to be at the site, and EDC brought a lot of more personnel on site. That was one of the requests really from vendor association and from the community partner, right, that we were more present. And we took it literally, we moved into part of the conference room of Tim. You want me to hear? So we're there, there's always EDC presence, either from our janitorial staff, or management staff, or field staff at the market when the market's open. And I think that's helped tremendously with a lot of the issues that we had, in terms of response and, you know, problems that happen with having the type of ladies we operate. Also analyzing, we analyze the budget. This is, probably which all of our, we see as a portfolio, our markets do not profit. Besides popular belief, it's really, we operate in negative, but it's because, we have a lot of operational expenses. But it's an important part of the community, and EDC is committed to continue to operate. So with that said, we have throughout the years, looked for other vehicles of how to bring profit, so that we don't have to raise, rents to the small businesses. One of them is public, which is the screens. I believe that came from your team, Steve. Tim, which where, every time there's like an ad, we get some commission out of it. And it's also integrated with local arts that they manage to be able to make sure that the content is in alignment with what we are. We also have, a lot of nonprofit events that normally come from the community partner. We, rent the space for them because we have operational expenses. But they normally get a very significant, discount. I believe it's 50%. And when it's available, right? Sometimes it's not available. One of the first asks that, I got when I arrived from Tim, was the kitchen was in very poor stage. And I agree. And I was poor stage, even though it was new, because it gets used a lot, right? Which is a good thing. So we went through it, what the needs were, what we wanted to do. I tried to do it privately, but the cost was very much more than we thought it would ever be. So one of my field team members, Jackie, said that she can do it. So we did the house and she did do it, and I think she did a great job. She worked very closely with Tim and his team to make sure that the needs of what we use, the demo kitchen, right, was supposed to model, were there. She redid the whole counter, we put new faucets, floors, we waterproofed the floors, believe it or not, our floors in the markets are not waterproof. When they were built, so a lot of the things go down to the market line, still to this day, so it was very important that we waterproof, a kitchen. She worked in it for a few months, so in the meantime, we set up a temporary kitchen next to it. And that's how we're operating now. So as of July 1st of this year, EDC, after a lot of analysis and situation, just made the decision to not renew the contract of CSC or Site 2 DSA for a facility operator, and we are running the market direct. So what that means is, I have my VP of operations of all public markets that sit there with me. I normally work on there unless I call to another meeting. I have Rosie, which is our market manager, and we have Super, we have custodians, we have all vendors that we see now part of the market, which allows us to react quicker to any emergency or something that happens, and allows us to also help with the community programming or nonprofits or private events that we do, because we can help them and participate when we have agendas of things that have been booked. How it works right now, the community partner owns the calendar, if you want to say, of events. They have their regular programming, it's mainly led by Fresh Bites and Lily. And then we divide it in 3 sections, so you have the community events. Which are ran by them, and we also have some extra ones like tango classes, yoga, free super, and other things that we add that are free to the community. And some of those we pay directly. Not to them, just to add some more wellness and not just all food, so there's a little bit of everything there. And then, we also have the tenants units, that they're allowed to use the kitchen at free cost as part of being part of the market. And then we have, private events, which is, mainly ran by us and my team, when there is, right now, I think we've only had 2.
Here.
For this whole year, we have 2, like, I don't call the nonprofits private, because they're really part of the community.
I just have a question. Would you prefer that we hold our questions to the end? I'm okay if we want to interrupt you and.
I'm fine with that. You have just,
I did have a question, but, you said it was twice a year, at least.
so far, I don't know exactly, but normally, we had, recently, like a pop-up, which was like 2 or 3 weeks ago from Samuel Adams, from the Brooklyn Road, for small businesses, so that's part and half of the mass. And, we do have a Christmas party, this coming Friday at one of our contracts.
So just a follow-up on that, so given that EDC is, looking at private events as a resource, to generate some revenue, what are the parameters? Like, is there a percentage of time that you guys have allocated for private events versus public, community events? Have you put any policy in place? Are you looking to, or has that just not been an issue as of yet?
We continue to run our calendar to the community partner. They're obviously the community events are first scheduled. And whatever, we don't have anything normally that takes place, whatever, before any private events confirmed, we all meet and make sure that the event's relevant also to where we are, right? We're not gonna have conflict or they come for a lot of things. I tend not to, and this was a rule I put, when I started, because logistically it makes a lot of conflict to try not to rent the whole mess. Unless it's after the market is closed, which I prefer those to be after the market is closed, and I would prefer privates to be also after the market is closed, just because logistically it makes it easier for my team. But if there is, for example, MoFA, this recently, when they told us how many people they had that was coming, I was like, if we don't close them, this is gonna be very tight and good, so we made the decision to close the whole mess. But they were mainly focused on the Norfolk and demo kitchen area, and that area was more for them to go stretch in the bars, I think, in that area. So that's a good example of a combined event, like I think both teams work together in that one. My team worked on the setup, moving the tables, helping with all. And Tim's team worked more with logistics and planning prior to the Something's gonna follow me, right?
Not the CB3 ghost.
So this is the being building from vibes, right? Yeah.
I'm used to the train, don't worry. I had the Metro North above me for like 2 years, I didn't even hear anything. So as July 1st, I was saying, we took over, so, when we canceled the vendor association contract was because really what that contract was doing was a separate contract from them, was we had a person in his office that was managed by the vendor association, which would get information from the tenant and then pass it to us. So when we staffed more people, I prefer the tenants go with us, it's faster, and there's no need to have a middle person if you do that.
Just to put a finer point on it, I think the consistent feedback we were getting from the vendors was that the chain of command and the triage, when you had an issue of when to go to the Lansing Street Associates, when you would go to EDC, it was unclear, it was too complicated. And so I think one of the benefits of EDC now sort of cutting the middleman out is like there's one entity to go to, which is EDC. And we cover all of, like Amy was saying, we have one person that does operations, we have one person that deals with programming, we have, you know, there, it's much clearer, and the, chain of command is clearer. We are on site, we have at least one person on site always when the market is open, right? There's a rotation of emergency contact, right, so it is just making it simpler, for the vendors to access this.
Yeah, and I think mainly, in my experience, I started in November 2 years ago, and I think we did. We had a incident with our LIGO system, and mainly, it could have been prevented if we would have known sooner maybe. But my team operates for 24/7. We work part of property ops, now we're on our own pillar, but I have my phone if you can see, and he's not because he knows, like, when anything happens, if there's a gas, we answer it all. There's always somebody to call versus, the vendor, he's not expected to be, like, it's not his fault, where, like, he got the messages when he turned on his phone from work, and then already tells him, interrupted, I think that helps us, they always know that they group text, so somebody's gonna answer, right? And if not, the security knows how to reach me. And I'm not the first person they call, but they call me when nobody's answering, and I always answer, and I'm like, why you not answering, right? So that's my role, and Tim knows we're talking all the time, with me and Tim and all the team. So we work, but if they come to me, for example, and it's not my domain, I will send them to his team. If they come to him and it's like, oh, the stairs are wet, Nina will come to me, I need the stairs out, and I'll send my custodian to go, like, hey, before somebody calls, please, guys. So that's kind of how we operate now. And like I said, we share offices together, working very closely. We couldn't do what we do, I think, without our community partner. I see great value in them, and I tell them all the time.
So can I ask you that, I know that their contract is set to expire.
Yeah, they're,
And so, in June, so given that they've been such a good partner, are you prepared to say anything in regards to the potential renewal of their contract, or what that might be looking like for them?
I mean, if it worked for me, and you guys don't be there, they would like, you're perfect, and they know that, right? But, we do have protocols that I don't, I just execute, and I told Tim, your contract is due in June. And I have to do an RFP process, what that means, if you wanna talk more, but you can talk more into it, but.
Yeah, so since the transition into the new space, the partnership has been the sole, partner to do community programming for Essex. Which means that essentially EDC, provides a check. And there's a contract that outlines all of the deliverables and services that they are to deliver, right? And so that has been now, I think,
It'll be 6 years.
it's gonna be 6
Because
years.
I know I did your last amendment. Because I came, like I said, his contract started before I arrived, but since I went in halfway with the whole transition, they allowed me to amend his contract for another year. And so they're right now, what we call sole sourcing.
Yes,
So,
I'm trying not
Yeah.
to use all the jargon, but essentially it has been yeah, so it is a sole source, which means, which is just our way of saying, sort of the decision was made that this provider will deliver this service. I think that there have been concerns internally at EDC that, sole source, I should take a step back and say sole source generally is not the preferred way that EDC likes to, fund its work. Because, they're, taxpayer, I shouldn't say taxpayer dollars, but there as a agency, there are accountability and transparency, thresholds that we, are expected to meet, and honestly, that many community boards and elected officials hold us accountable to. And so, if you take the amount and you multiply it by 6, it is a very significant amount of money for, to be like, our legal team feels like it has reached a threshold where there needs to be an open and competitive process. right? So I wanna be very clear that this is in no way a judgment or criticism of, you know, the partnership or the quality or consistency of services that are being delivered in the market, right? I think this is a operational slash process slash legal decision. And I think on top of that, there's also just a layer of accountability and transparency that needs to happen to procure sort of the next for this RFP to be out there and for a competitive process to happen. Yeah.
So maybe before we. This is why I had asked, should we be asking questions? So I just wanna make sure that there's not other things that you wanna raise before then I'll open it up. If not, I'm gonna let you just ask your question really quickly and then we'll continue.
Lovely. And thank you. So I have two questions. First, on the vendors association, I've not talked to any of the vendors, so this is just sort of an intuitive feeling. Considering some of the differences are, you know, they're sort of almost collective, not collective bargaining, but it's collective requests and, you know, a while ago, wouldn't they feel easier for them to go to one of the vendors to go to you rather than, or to go to EDC, rather than each vendor on their own going to EDC with an issue? So that's the first question. That's the easy one.
To be clear, the vendor association still exists. It's not operated and never was through EDC. The only thing EDC is not doing is having a contract to have an external person be the liaison between them. I still have regular meetings with, and I have one coming up next week actually, with the vendor association's president, and they still speak for the vendors. So if they have any needs, Jody or Soeda or Saad, will reach out to me or Rosie, and we set up a meeting and we address whatever it is they want.
So they still have the option.
Yeah.
They still can do the same thing.
Yes.
The other thing was on the RFP, so, this is coming from years and years and years of being involved in this. And as you know, it's emotional for our community. So for the RFP process, for Essex Crossing, which included the market and everything else, the community board, had well, first of all, we had a separate committee, I think it was called the 197A committee that met every month for years. And they created guidelines that were incorporated into the RFP. So we were very much involved in the creation of the RFP. And then even more unusual, after the RFP was awarded, there was a small group that included community board people that signed a non-disclosure agreement and was part of the group that reviewed the RFPs. So the community board is very, very involved in the RFP process. That's the precedent for Essex Crossing. And I would like to know how that will work if another RFP is going out, how that would work for the community board and stakeholders to be involved.
For any future RFP?
Well, we're talking about a
For
contract
the,
that's up in,
we don't have one right now.
Yeah,
When if there's one, I assume.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's something I'm gonna have to take back. That's not something I can answer at that moment, but understand the sentiment.
well, I mean, it is the way the Essex this has been a partnership with the community board and the EDC for many difficult years and many hardworking years, and that is the way that the community board and EDC work together on Essex Crossing.
My relationship with Essex Crossing goes back so far that I was like a young. Okay, I have great hair.
I feel that.
So, I mean, before it even became a part of the community board's conversation, you know, we had mounted a coalition, we've done a study. There were organizations in this neighborhood that were really trying to lift up this issue. The lots have been vacant for a long time. We wanted to make sure that whatever came in was meaningful and that it addressed our community, and I think you know, a very interesting moment in time for us because, you know, we see the project has come largely to fruition. And we're seeing some of the concessions and the things that we thought were really valuable and important to us. There's a few questions, right? You know, the market line now, potentially Burlington Coat Factory. Like, what does that mean for us? That's like the complete opposite of anything that I invested all of my personal, you know, organizational and my community's time into. And so forgive us when we are like asking these hard pressing questions because we want to ensure that moving forward, we are not losing more and more, but that we remain in a position where we can continue to provide valuable feedback, oversight, and community engagement into this process. So I would love for you to take that time to EDC that we would like to have. And just to be clear, I'm not even arguing that for myself, I wasn't part of that task force. Right, but I was part of everything before that. But it really helped us to make sure that we got some important valuable things out of that process. There were a lot of wins that were secured because we picked we hoped the right people, right? So, you know, I think in a moment where things are changing, we have, a valuable community asset that is a part of this process, that has an investment in our community and also in the longevity of making sure that the market is successful. So I think we want to make sure that we are able to weigh in on that because we value what the bid has done for us. And so if we had our way, you know, we probably just say, renew, we get it that you gotta do what you gotta do, but then we wanna make sure we have a role in that process.
I wanna be clear and Tim, you can speak to this. I am an advocate. I see my, not just Essex Market, all my markets are community hubs, and that's the reason they exist, and they will continue to. And I value the input of the community, and we base our programming, our efforts and everything we do, not just for the small businesses we work for, but for the community. Right, because we can do a lot, but we invest a lot of time, energy and effort to give back to the community that these markets are in. And we know the importance of these markets to the community. Like, I don't do Halloween parties because it's fun. I do Halloween parties in La Marqueta and Essex Market and North Street Market and all the markets I can, because it's a safe place for these kids to go and enjoy a good event without their parents having to do a lot of money or something that they might not be able to afford. And that's important to us, and I know it's important to Tim, and I think we have a great partnership. And like G said, this is nothing to at all. If it was that, we would have canceled this contract, right? And we didn't do it.
No, we
We are out, but in terms of Gigi and me, we work in different, she works in local, I'm asset management, so my work is operational, and it's really keeping the place clean, open, safe, and tenanted. That's really my role and my team's role, so we will definitely, and I'm sure our team will listen to us as we are the main people at the market, what our insights is for it whenever the RFP is to go out. And it would be, you know, with the input of, I assume, whatever guidelines they allow us to continue to.
Do you have a timeline, when you'll have the RFP issue?
I'm hoping, I don't have a time because it hasn't been, but knowing our company, I was hoping to have it no later than February. Just because after an RFP, there's a period of time where you have to give fair chance for people to apply. And again, now sometimes people don't apply.
And then there's a selection
Yes,
process.
and then this is the, selection
And we
process.
just not want there not to be an operator, if it, you know what I mean? If
No, and then after that comes the contract, so with all that timeline in line, I would like 3 to 4 months, the process, I also have to go to ESCO to get approval for it.
Right, so there's the RFP, there's typically, the typical RFP process, right, has to be out for a certain number of days. You have a question, session where anyone can come ask for clarification. Answers get publicly posted, then they have to be reviewed, we set up a committee, an interdisciplinary committee internally, they get reviewed. There then has to be additional internal review to make sure that all of the rules have been followed and met. And then, if there is, competition, then you have to interview and bring people in. After selection, you then have to negotiate the contracts. They're often back and forth on contract amendments, right? And so, we have a standard operating procedure of working backwards to ensure that there is no gap of services. And so that is something that we will be managing very closely, and we'll keep you guys, updated on where we are. And tell you what we can, certainly once the RFP is live. We are restricted from saying anything because of unfair advantage, et cetera, but yeah, that's the general.
But in terms of timing, there has to be one by July first.
I have another.
Especially with people. So it's right in the middle, so it's like,
So I have another quick follow-up question. You have other markets, and do all the markets have a community partner?
the ones we directly manage, because we have 6 markets.
Six altogether,
Three.
including Essex.
Yes, there's 6 in total under the umbrella, 3 EDC directly managed, and there's 3 that are, one tenant that does the tenanting by themselves and they operate on themselves. So those would be our revenue, Jamaica's Farmers Market and, Certo, which is our kosher market in Brooklyn. Then we have the direct managed ones would be Essex Market, North Street Markets in Brooklyn, and La Marqueta in East Harlem.
Okay.
So those 3, they each have their individual community
And then
partners. They have, we have, but they're our biggest, obviously, because of the size of the market and what it entails, but we have, the Graham Bid, for example, is a community partner for North Street. And, she also works with El Puente, which is a local community, depends on the community. And La Marqueta, we have Uptown Grand Central, which actually just recently became a bid for the 125th Street, but we don't fall on 125th, so we still do, work with her on the Uptown Grand Central, and, we have Unit 7, which also we work very closely, and then we have a lot of, community, local nonprofits that we partner with. They're not, we call them community partners, but it's because we either allow them to use the space free of charge, for their, nonprofit, like our dinner, we have them in Essex, and they expanded to La Marqueta.
So are any of their contracts up now too?
They had just been done,
They,
Right,
so
yeah.
this is the only one that's up right now, that's coming up.
the aspirings.
Okay, I'm only asking because as a practitioner who has many grants and some of them are city, and I have a lot of resources for this neighborhood and otherwise. We see a trend sometimes of larger operators wanting to expand. And so I was just a little concerned about whether or not.
He would be the largest.
Well, that's. But here's the
Large guy, the ones that are way smaller. Yeah.
Where you have one operator that operates 3 tenants,
No.
right now.
And that, that won't happen because each market community base is, like, even,
That's very
they help
different.
us sometimes with some branding for the other markets, but they cannot do community for the other markets because it's just not the community.
The flavor
Right?
of each of the
Yeah.
3 markets that EDC manages is very different. The
Yeah.
size, the scale,
Yeah.
the number of vendors, like, they are really.
And they
just-
understand, they
incredibly
understand, right, like outside of you all, how critically important it is to think about it that way, right?
Yes.
And, cause I mean, like, for example, big organizations all the time are being funded to operate in multiple neighborhoods, taking away the sort of, cultural aspect, the personalization, the knowledge of the community, and so I just wanted to make sure that's what the big brings.
That was take away
Oh, yeah,
what we are.
obviously, so that's great, that's good to know.
And let me remind you, we are negative, so we don't have money for it.
So should we, I'm gonna ask anybody else to start chiming in. Susan has a question and then we'll take any other question.
Yeah, I was wondering, in the RFP, what or how you will place value on knowledge of the culture of this community. It's a complex community. It's, you know, a little bit different than many other communities. And understanding the history and understanding the history and knowledge and culture of the community is very important. And I'm wondering how that is going to be incorporated into the RFP.
Yeah, we take, like I said, a lot of insight from the community. I work here practically every day, and I see the diversity, I see how different it is from some of my other markets, which are very specific in the niche. There's a lot of variety in the market, and it's represented in the program. We can have, cooking fresh bite class in Chinese, like, and then the same day we have one in Spanish, right? Or we can have tango, and we can have like, Lunar New Year's, which I only celebrate in Essex, because I don't have that in the other markets. Well, like, just like we celebrate, Three Kings, we were celebrating in the Merc, but there is a Latino community here, so now we celebrate it here too. So we cross around, and it's based on who we see every day in the market, who comes, like, I know some people already names, they're here, like I said, we're a community hub. They're there every day, some of the people work from there. What I love about Essex is there is a lot of blend in terms of age group, which in the other markets tends to be all the elderly. Here you have a good blend of the younger with the elderly, and a nice priority, which I wish I could see, and I hope to see eventually in the other markets, because, and he knows me, for me, it's very important that traditions and cultures are passed along generations, because if not, they go. Right.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. I know, you know, in, just to follow up on that, in other RFPs, sometimes there's, you know, weighted values to different categories. And so I guess what we're saying is that we really would like for the RFP to consider, you know, the cultural knowledge, historical knowledge of the community, and work or because even if it's not a big vendor, it could be a small vendor that doesn't know.
Yeah,
Right?
I mean,
So we want
my
to make sure
team-
that we add that kind of language if possible, to the RFP.
yeah, so you know, it wouldn't be my team who writes the scope of work,
Yeah.
that's what
So
I'm
that's why
saying.
I'm just.
Yeah, the scope, that's where it is, and I think, it's just public raising our own share, but we take in consideration, obviously, and again, what we have works. So I don't think it will navigate too far from what we're doing. That makes sense.
Any other questions from others? Anybody else?
So ask if anyone online has a question.
Yeah, but are you gonna be speaking?
You asked me to talk about programming.
So we can ask what people online if they have questions, who's navigating that, is that you? I'll do it, you do it. This is the portion of our meeting to everyone who is joining us online. Where the public, if you have a question, you can ask it. Please, I guess what we want to do, raise their hand.
Raise your Zoom hand.
Raise your Zoom hand, okay, because we cannot see your hand. So raise your Zoom hand.
Damaris, I don't know if anyone's mic is on.
Oh.
Yep.
So apparently I've been speaking and nobody can hear me. So,
Showing it in the captions.
okay, so, I'm gonna ask again, this is the portion of the meeting where the public gets to ask questions. Or if you have a comment that you have to make. And so I'm gonna ask you, if you are online and you wish to ask a question or speak, please raise your Zoom hand. And we'll give folks about 2 minutes to ask their question or make their statement. Okay, so you can raise your hands now, if you have any questions or any statements.
No hands.
No hands. Nobody's jumping up and down. It's okay. We might have questions after the next presentation. So don't leave us, stay with us. But with that being said, if the rest of the committee doesn't have any questions, I'm gonna ask Tim to talk to us a little bit about the programming that they've been offering to the community. So please, come forward. So Tim is with us from the Business Improvement District.
Yeah, you just.
And he'll introduce himself and.
Yeah, man, I'm gonna.
I'm gonna.
I'll hand them.
Okay,
Thank
right,
you.
oh, and let's think, thank you. Where am I, do I have to say? It's all over there. Wait, hold on a second. Nah, I'm good.
And as you get to, thanks, Eileen and Gigi for coming and answering all of our questions. And for staying to hear the rest of the.
Good evening. I'm great, and I'm right up top. It's like Christmas. Yes, it's Christmas tree. Good evening, everybody. Tim Laughlin. I'm the president of the Lower East Side Partnership. Let me start by just saying, I think Elaine and you both outlined what is a really productive partnership that we've had with EDC for many years. I was there with you, Damaris, during those days, when we were talking about what's gonna happen when the bid was running parking lots and we didn't have a project, and so obviously a lot has changed since then. But we should recognize the significant financial investment that EDC has made in the community and programming. It has been substantive. I was asked just to give an overview of the community partnership and programming pieces. And so,
Question,
yes,
do you
ma'am.
have that available to share with the public?
I'm trying. For some reason, I couldn't share the screen.
We're just gonna take 1 minute to see if we can project, share the presentation on screen so that everyone online can see it in there.
Members of my team that would normally help me
I
are
think-
not here. So, I hope you for the best. Well,
You know, now it's one.
I don't know if they can,
Well, you know what, if, I'm gonna promote Nina to,
well, wait, so before we promote her. Hey Nina, how you doing? Great to meet you around moving board Zoom. Can you hear us?
she's rejoining as a panelist. There goes Nina.
Nina, are you with us?
Yeah, I am. What am I being summoned for? I've just been listening.
It's kind of like a genie. Is there any way that if you could share the presentation possibly? Susan was having some challenges doing that on the Zoom and you were thinking maybe you could help us.
I can't share it from where I'm unfortunately am located, which is walking.
Got it?
yeah. But I had forwarded the PDF to Claire and Susan, like at four-ish.
We will figure it out. Thank you.
Okay, who's it good to? You got it? Yeah, you kind of, I just get the line.
So I just can't, I don't even, pull from the screen, so
They'll figure it out in a minute, if not, then. That's right. Okay. I think it's an important.
No, absolutely. Nina's gonna be frustrated with that, because I caught her when she was walking. It's like, come on,
English.
Nina, from now on, you should just carry around an iPad so you can stop quickly.
Anything.
Just, straight out of the command center, as it were.
Maybe it has to be.
I was like.
It's more important. Keep it up, keep it up a little. That's yours stuff.
I'm going to want to close your account. Your favorite.
Yeah.
I just like to say that there are people who are more skilled in technology and Zoom than I am.
Yes.
We're cooking with gas.
Yeah, I'm about.
So you're gonna do.
Susan, you manage it, Susan?
Okay.
Who's gonna manage slide?
This one.
Okay, I think we're ready, the floor is back.
Thank you. We'll just give an overview, talk about our community partnership, talk about Fresh Bites, talk about community fridge, not-for-profit partner, public events, talking base, content and marketing design direction. You'll see, one of those examples of a partnership here, as many of you know, we've seen a rash of really just, crappy tags. Not even good public art, but just crappy tags with acid pens on very expensive windows. And unfortunately, the windows along Essex were just chronically tagged and really just looked awful. And so EDC made a significant investment, working to not only get the etch off the glass, but to put up a mural along the entirety of the street. And that's just a partnership in some of the work we do and a good example. We go to the next slide, Susan, please. Oh, yeah, really? But when we talk about, and I think Aline mentioned it too, there's a lot of activity happening at the Essex market. It truly is that third place where multi-generational members of our community come, whether you're young, whether you're old, whether you are living in a new condo that you just purchased market rate, or whether you're living in one of the affordable units that are dotted throughout our community, both in Essex Crossing and in the many rent-stabilized tenements that folks call home. Really, the market is truly a space that people can enjoy. And it's just evidenced here by this photo. Go to the next slide, please, Susan. So we'll talk about some of the community benefits and the programmatic offerings. Our Fresh Bites program was grown from the original market that we had. It was based on LaGuardia's original conception of the Depression and teaching tenants in the Lower East Side to cook with thrift. That's what they used to call it. And so we have for FY 25, over 2,000 participants in Manhattan, and we have folks traveling from Brooklyn and Queens. 95% of those participants are tasting food during Fresh Bites, and 89% are reporting that they're learning something new about healthy eating. At the end of the cooking and nutrition class, all the meals that are cooked are nutritious. You also have a Fresh Bites annual report that goes through much more detail about the program. You get a coupon to use at one of our vendors, and if you have SNAP or EBT benefits, it essentially is a coupon to expand your purchase and allow you to get that ingredient through a program we call Market Money. We have seen year-over-year increases, and the majority of participants now are more senior citizens, low and moderate income citizens over 60 years of age. Next slide, if you could, Susan. So the next slide just gives you a great picture. This is Lily Chin, who does all of our nutrition and community programming in the kitchen. She is upstairs on the 6th floor. There's a market elevator on the mezzanine that goes all the way up to the roof. Above the movie theater is a community garden. That is a really important community space that I think we forget about as part of the project, and something that the community board, in my view, should really weigh in on. And the use of it is being more geared towards the community and education. It's great to see kind of our youngest. So it's operated by Project Eats on and off. Delaney Street Associates did build it as part of the community. It's not directly connected to the market, although frankly it should be, because it's a great educational resources. You see, bringing youngsters up, really kind of understanding in an urban environment, where their food's coming from and how they can grow their food and how they can eat it. That's something special that we really can't do elsewhere. And again, the direct connections to the market make that very easily used and accessible by school groups and other community organizations that we work with. The next slide, Susan. So great partnership on our community fridge. If you don't know, it's on Broome Street, very popular at certain times of day. We've had a couple different iterations of it, but really the idea behind the community fridge is to be able to provide a resource for those in need. We continue to see the need. We'd love to expand the program. There frankly is a significant need, and that's just the reality. Next slide, please. We talked a little bit about strengthening not-for-profit partnerships, and Aline mentioned really kind of those community users. Here those are. So Part of Dinner does their food packing projects out of the Essex Market, Essex Kitchen. So they're packing food for low and moderate income seniors throughout the community. Project Eats, again, a partner related to transforming urban spaces and the farm above. And it's done some really great work up there. And then we've also partnered with District 1 for a reading and book distribution hub, so that the school district provides books for those in need and encourages students in the district to come and take those books and take them home. And obviously, especially at a younger age, encourage a love of reading. You'll see a variety of other partners, from Grand Street Settlement to CPC to HCRC. We're doing programming for developmentally disabled young folks and adults, pretty much the full gamut of opportunities. really again, a focus on cooking and nutrition, that is unique because we are a public market. The next page. Gives you an idea of some of those exciting events. You'll see in the gray boxes, all of the different events, that were hosted in fiscal 25. Everything from dance competitions and shows, to, really kind of history talks and unique opportunities to kind of sit and enjoy, a conversation about not only culture and history, but about food. Next slide, Susan. When we're talking about food, Talk and Taste is a program that again has grown substantially. From the old market, real important partnership with MoFab and Edible Manhattan, and the New York Times, really kind of bringing folks in and talking about food, the history of food, and how food can make your lives and a place very special. The next slide, please. Just gives a review when we talk about content and marketing. We're really kind of working not only with individual vendors, but with a broader set of tools to support and kind of promote Essex Market as a unique destination and a cultural hub for our community. In addition to being a part of the public market portfolio for the city, sister markets, North Street, La Marqueta, and others, really coming together as a broader network. But we're really being able to put that photo, that video, all the things that we're doing for small business supports behind those public markets effort to enhance that profile and really kind of enhance how people are seeing the market both here in the city and throughout the country. Lastly, I will go to the next slide, please, Susan. I give great credit to our team. Again, that funding from EDC not only provides programming, but also provides staffing support. In-house, we're able to produce a variety of different graphics, not only for Essex, but for other markets to support the efforts of those teams and community partners. Really, again, in a world where you kind of still need to touch things, these things do make a difference. They really, really, truly do. And we've seen a great attraction to them. You'll love the Women of New York City Public Markets book. It's an actual printed book that highlights all the women vendors throughout the entire network. And really the amazing immigrant entrepreneurs that we have operating in the city sponsored assets, both here in Manhattan and in other boroughs. And finally, we'll leave with a very good piece of advocacy from our community. We took this sign from the old market. We paid a lot to meet it. The developer paid a lot of money to restore it. And it's still there today. So really kind of, again, bridging that gap between old and new. I don't have this document. I'm happy to send it to the community to put it up, but this document is, again, just an annual report of that Fresh Bites activity. Really just kind of breaks down exactly how it works. I do also have, that I'm going to be reminded I don't pass out, some of the recipe cards you can all take with you. So if you want to try some of the Essex Market or at home for the holidays, we'll get those to you. I've talked for a while. I apologize about that. Happy to answer any of your questions.
Great, thank you, Tim. The first thing I want to say is that it looks like, based on your presentation, they play an important role both in, promoting community, programming, but also in providing support to the vendors in marketing and otherwise, which I think is, I hadn't really quite pieced it together that way, but that makes a lot of sense to me when you're designing the vaccine.
Thank you. That's not me, just for the record, Nina, Jojo, Nick and the team, thank you for all your hard work. I have to say it time and time again.
I also, I'm excited to learn again about the garden. I forget about some of these things that we sort of negotiated way back then myself. And I think you're right that we should look at, ways to open it up and maybe partner it more. I love the idea of the urban farm and connecting it to some of the food programs that you all are doing. That's all really good. Quite frankly, I had some programs we recently had. I really realized that I would have reached out to part two. So with that being said, does anybody else have any other questions for the bid in terms of their programming? Impact, experience, how's it been? How about that? Like, what is it? You didn't always operate out of this space, right? So this is in the last many years now.
So, look, it's really interesting when you think about it. The old market was there and had some real challenges. And it was a conversation to fix any of those challenges, we'll put it that way. we moved into the new market, and I think that there was a lot of coordination and a lot of efforts and a lot of kind of hope that there was that coordinated approach that we mentioned about Delancey Street Associates and the market line. The pandemic happened, right? And we had moved to the market shortly, only a few months before. So I think that unfortunately, the reality is the trajectory that could have been was stunted just because we went into an emergency operation setting. And we got out of that. And we've done a good job at trying to move forward collaboratively. Unfortunately, the closure of the market line has had an impact. There's no getting around it. Right, just the foot traffic changed, the expectation changed. I think a lot of people thought that the market line was just an extension of the Essex market, right? And we were never able to really explain it because it was too complicated, right? Because it just everyone thought it was together. So we got through the market line is closing, is the Essex market closed? And now we're in a different phase. So I think I'm hopeful for the future, right? I think that we need to kind of hit a reset, and Essex Crossing is hitting its own reset and pivoting its own way. But I think there is an opportunity for us to use that reset to really leverage what is the last community benefit in the project because of the fact that other things change. Not that they were bad, but they changed and went in a different direction. So when we talk about the market, when we talk about the mezzanine, when we talk about the kitchen, when we talk about that farm, how are we connecting all of those things, right? This committee and the community board, rightly, I think said, hey, let's try to keep those stair connections to that cultural institution. Whether or not that can still happen is a TBD. But I think that this moment calls for us to pause and maybe say, hey, where are we going? What does this look like? And how are we all pivoting together as a group? Because now there are many more stakeholders than just the Delancey Street Associates, because there are many more owners of Essex Crossing than other ones were.
This is like a weird moment to come full circle. That's right. Only full circle moment.
Showing our age in that full circle, I'm just like, wait a second, I'm like, hey, we've been here for a while.
I have another question. Do you have other offices outside of the spaces that you occupy inside the market?
We do not, yeah.
So what would happen? This is just, would you have to move if your contract has not renewed? Oh my God.
I don't think we've had that discussion yet, so I don't have an answer.
Sorry. So if you might not be able to answer this, but my question is, should their contract with EDC not be renewed, would they have to relocate? I don't know. They can stay there.
If anything, you probably would kick me out. Because we share, I don't think you would. But we share offices, no, they're separate things. He has a permit just like any other tenant has. And the market. Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, he's a tenant.
we're not.
He's a community partner and a tenant.
You don't, yeah.
He's a good tenant.
We've had.
He pays his rent.
Well, let's hope that's the case, Nina, right? That's terrible record.
The rent is paid, but are those spaces the kind of spaces that should be set aside for, a different community partner? I'm just asking because, I think that these are the kinds of questions that we want to put up front and center, because, the impact here is greater than just what we covered here tonight. But with that being said, anybody else have any questions? Susan, please.
I have to make one more statement because I would disappoint you. I'm gonna say, this was very much a community effort, of which the bid was one of the stakeholders and a part of it. And I think the community would be extremely upset to have a new entity that was not part of this come in and manage it. I think it just wouldn't be accepted. It would be, there would be tremendous bad feeling about it. Because it's been, and it's hard to explain when we're talking about, a commercial place, but for the people that have been it was empty for 50 years. And it was empty for racist reasons. I don't know if you guys know any of the history, Google Shelby Silver and Robert Moses. Robert Moses was involved in all this. I just want to emphasize the importance of this aspect of our community.
Thank you, Susan, for saying that, we all echo many of us echo those sentiments. Aside from the fact that we dedicated a good portion of our lives to this project. And if you don't believe me, I'll show you pictures when I stand long there. In front of a gate, saying Sue Parker.
But it's a 10 week.
Somebody found it, and I was like, oh my gosh, throw it away.
They're giving away my anniversary special programmatic event, like thing, but it's cut out of all of us from younger years, right, Essex Crossing.
Really? Alright, so, we look forward to hearing further updates about the RFP, moving forward. And I think, we've set up, unless anybody has any other closing, statements that they wanna make, Ted, do you have anything that you wanna say?
No, thank you, again.
It's clear and, we're speaking to the both of you to take this back to you teams, the importance of the public programming, the importance of the community invested partner, right? And wanting to continue to see that. I know this is not part of this, but maybe take this back to some of the dissatisfaction about the Christmas and Co factory. I know that has nothing, but I'm sure you guys have conversations about it. But that is also a moment that prompts us, right? When we see these things, it feels like a reversal in commitment, a reversal in what we talked about. And so we are really trying to stay ahead of this before one day y'all are not here anymore. And somebody after you talks about how they wanna rent it to Walmart or somebody like that. And I'm not,
You had mentioned this earlier, but I don't know if this is the space for us, as we're talking about Essex Market, when there was that presentation a few months ago, I know there was a few next steps on our end to send a letter to the electeds of how we're not in favor of Burlington. I wanted to see, Susan, if you happen to know if there's a follow-up on that.
Yes, so we sent the letter and, well, we did a resolution, we sent a letter to elected officials. And, one of the elected officials as a first step called the EDC to find out the status, I guess it was Gigi. And, was told basically it's a done deal, and somehow City Hall was involved. And that's where that is.
Right, I mean, why don't I just? Slightly more detail is that, yes, the transaction for Burlington to be in the former Market Line space has been approved by City Hall. There are certainly other steps that DSA has to take with Burlington themselves, right? And I think when, Rohan was here last, he did say that there is a runway of at least a year, probably closer to 18 months of lots of things that have to happen before Burlington, moves in. And so I think the answer you were looking for is, the city portion, the role that the city plays is complete. Now it's sort of whether they move in or not is a DSA in Burlington execution of contract process.
so.
So it's done. And does that mean it's a
Well,
deal?
From our influence, it's
From our
fine,
influence.
Well,
you can get
that was
everything
done
on
from
the
our
outside
side.
contract.
It's done from the government.
So usually those community benefit agreements aren't very binding, but was that with DSA or was that with the city?
So I think from the last meeting, right, we went through some of the language for the community commitments. EDC does feel like none of the community commitments were I don't use the word violated, but that there was nothing in the Burlington deal that was contrary to how EDC interprets the commitments. We certainly heard from the community board that they felt like the spirit of some of the commitments, just in the square footage being so close to the limit, that was not something that they felt pleased about, and we hear that and we understand that. I think the key, what the real estate team would tell you if they were here is that, EDC's role in Burlington's future at Essex was more of a checklist, sort of like, are these criteria met? Because EDC does not own that space, right? That space is a separate condo that is owned by Delancey Street Associates. So while we have a role, our role is not as significant as one might perceive it to be.
Yeah, I appreciate those sentiments. I will say that it only took less than a decade for a full reversal here. And I'm just to say that, I can say that, that's all. Yeah, I said, thank you, I understand the role that you play, but I will say that it took less than 10 years for a full reversal of the commitments that we asked for, and so, I just feel like this is an important moment in time to recognize that sometimes when the community speaks, we get shut down and we get told that we're being extra, or that, we are, being inflammatory or unrealistic, and again, time and again, we get proven, and we get evidence that proves to us that when we are not diligent and we don't cross all the T's and dot all the I's and get things, in agreements that are binding, this is where we're at. So, we'll see, but thank you for the role that you played. And I think outside of that, what else do we have? We have, I think this issue, we're done, unless we have any people online who would like to, can we check and see if there's anybody online?
Can I just answer your question, Damaris?
Yes, please.
Right, that what do you have? You have an Essex market and you have a farm on top of it. That is what is left. So just when we talk about all these things, and when we talk about your next steps, and when we talk about, frankly, the administration coming in just a matter of days. That is the conversation this community is having about benefits that are derived from Essex Crossing. If the determination to site Burlington Boat Factory stays the determination that was made.
Okay, sorry,
There's no hands up, you'll be able to see them.
it's okay. So thank you, Sam, thank you, Gigi, thank you, Irene, for coming to have this important conversation. We look forward to the follow-up, we will follow up. And I do truly appreciate you hearing us. This is an important issue to many of us. It's a really important issue to me too. I'm trying to contain myself right now. So we have the next item on the agenda, but we don't have a phone. Have that conversation, and that's what we do.
I could take, let these guys know if they want. And I can take 2 minutes to kind of explain what it is, because you didn't meet last month, you're the only committee that sort of hasn't done it.
See you there. I have them. Thank you, bye, Gigi. I didn't get to see pictures, I was a little disappointed.
Do you know what I'm saying? Okay, give it a shot. In my view.
Let's follow up on.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It's like if there's not open.
Yeah, let's think about this.
I didn't know you were coming, I'm like,
Okay,
I see,
so
that's it.
the last item on the agenda, I think it's called, planning for term limits.
Yes.
Bye-bye. And what that's about, what the other committees. Excuse me,
We're gonna move on to the next, since there's only a few. Alright, thank.
Okay, so what that is, in 2027, we're gonna lose a great deal of our board with a lot of institutional knowledge. What we're trying to do, we've discussed this at exec, and what we're trying to do is get as much documented as possible. So the exec has had a timeline for a while, but what we're doing at the exec is filling it out a lot and then noting which things on the timeline need documented procedures. The committees are also doing this. And all of the committees discussed this last month and it was. We didn't suspect it, but it became actually a very engaging conversation. So there is a timeline format, which I can give to you for the next meeting. It was actually created by May Lee at Human Services, but I think I sent it out, you probably haven't. I sent it out to all the committee chairs, and everyone decided they wanted to use the same format, which will work well. But what will be on the timeline will be different for each committee. Each committee will have the district needs and budget priorities, but then other things that are important in that committee. And along with that, what procedures, what they want to document and put in writing. And what we're thinking of doing in the office is on the website, maybe creating a space for each committee and then posting those things sort of in a committee folder, so it'll be available to the committees, but also be available to agencies, to the public, to everyone. So it's ambitious, it's a lot of work, but we do have a year. So we're starting in time. And, if we could put it on the agenda again for next month,
That's good.
and we could share on the screen the timeline. And people could start talking about what they would like to create documented procedures for.
Great, that's super helpful. This will be my last year. Coming up, I'm term limited. So
Well,
2026 will be my last year.
You have another year starting from April, right?
So
So
this year, right, so
April 2027,
I'll be done.
but the good news is you could be a public member.
I can. It's gonna be like
And
a
you
lifetime career.
And you could be on this committee and give lots of direction.
I was actually, I was a public member since like 2007. Then I finally decided to apply, because I felt like I was going to meetings and I couldn't even vote at full board, because a public member. I mean, not that the public members don't have a really important role, in fact, I was a public member for the entirety of our time when we were dealing with Essex Cross Village for sewer park and renewal. And that was an important project that we worked on, and I, have to say, we all made a significant contribution to that. Whether we were full board members or whether we were public members.
Yes, I mean, all the work, 99.9% of the work is done in committees. And public members are full members of the committee with voting and everything else.
So. Okay. Any questions, anything? We got these cookies, you taking me home?
Alistair suggested that I keep them for the staff.
Good post guy.
It was very nice of him.
I'm pretty sure that each one of those cookies is about 1,000 calories.
2000.
And even with this cold, I mean, I feel like you burn 1,000 calories walking down the street to the subway.
Excuse.
I like it, I'll take that.
It's the holidays too, it doesn't count in December.
Well, it's on my waistline now.
That's like my thing, that if you eat standing up, it doesn't help.
Exactly. You're burning calories while you're consuming. It balances out.
Standing up, right? All right, so if we don't have anything else, I think we can I get a motion to adjourn? No, we don't.
You just call roll.
Okay, roll call it.
I need someone help me. I have trouble with people's names.
Okay,
Damaris Reyes,
here,
John Fout, Ariadne Chua, Alistair Economacus, Herman Hewitt, Michelle Coopersmith, Molly Yu, Campbell Munn here, Rob Romanian, excuse me.
Here.
Jaylene Rodriguez, Sandra Struther, Steve Herrick, Megan Joy. All right.